Good morning, everybody. Today is Thursday, January 26, 2023. The time is 9:02 a.m. Welcome to the new year, to the Alameda County Healthy Homes Department Joint Powers Authority Board of Directors General Meeting. This meeting is being conducted pursuant to exemptions to the Brown Act authorized by Assembly Bill 361 during the COVID state of emergency. The board, the staff, and members of the public are best protected for their health, safety, and welfare by continuing to conduct video conference meetings, provided that the board makes findings not less than every 30 days that the state of emergency still exists, and that the interest in having a video conference meeting is in the best interest of our health. This meeting is being conducted pursuant to those exemptions. If you wish to provide comment in today's meeting and you're joining us by Zoom, you'll be offered the opportunity to use the raise hand feature on the Zoom bar. If you're joining us by telephone, you can press *9, and that will let me know that you wish to speak during a public comment period. Or you may email Leticia de la Fuente, the secretary for this board, at the email address provided for in the agenda packet. With that, Madam Clerk, I would ask if you'd please take the roll call.
Okay. Director Hardy? Director Hardy, can you unmute yourself? Okay. Director Vella?
Hardy's here.
Hardy present. Director Vella? Absent. Director Wenrath?
Good morning.
Director Gallo?
Present.
Director Bowders?
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Leticia. Now is the time for public comment. A member of the public who wishes to comment for an item not on today's agenda or on the consent calendar has an opportunity to do so for 2 minutes. Did we receive any written comment cards in advance of today's meeting, Leticia?
No public comment.
Okay, and do we have any members of the in attendance who wish to comment? Seeing no hands, public comment is now closed, and we'll turn to the consent calendar. There are 2 items, the AB 361 resolution, and this will be the last time we take this item up, members, as well as the meeting minutes from December 15th, 2022. Is there a member who wishes to pull or discuss or debate any of the consent items? Seeing and hearing none, is there public comment on the consent? Seeing and hearing none, is there a motion on the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Wengraff and a second by Gallo to approve the consent calendar. Please call the roll.
Director Hardy?
Yes.
Hardy, aye. Director Vella? Vella absent. Director Wenrath?
Yes.
Wenrath, aye. Director Bowders?
Aye.
Bowders, aye. Director Gallo?
Aye.
Gallo, aye.
Okay, motion passes. Measures are approved. Thank you, members. Item 4 is the Brown Act compliance item, but I don't think we have counsel here yet, so we're going to skip item 4, members, and come back to it at the appropriate time. Item 5 is the director's report. Director Brooks.
Thank you. And let me see here, share screen. Here we go. Okay, can everyone see the screen and can everyone hear me? Thumbs up.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to start off this meeting with I think some good news for Lisa, bad news for our department. Pretty mixed emotions here. And you see that we have some of our staff here because they wanted to further acknowledge our senior registered environmental health specialist, Lisa Plorde, who is retiring after 29 years of service to the county. Yesterday, we actually were able to have a COVID restricted send off for Lisa. Staff were able to get together and kind of say their goodbyes. There were a few tears. Okay, I have allergies, put it that way. And as I ran out the building and forgot to give her a hug, but some very interesting things came out during the discussion yesterday, which led me to create these photos, because there's just not enough things we can say about her. And I'm thinking that these pictures kind of say it all in terms of Lisa and her impact on me. That center picture, when I first arrived in the department, was first changing their name to Healthy Homes, and they were having an open house. And I got to take that photo with Lisa as I was starting out as a rookie in the department. And then there's the picture to the far right of some of the staff showing off where they went to college. That was doing, I think, a scavenger hunt game that we were playing in the pre-COVID days for the holidays or either Employee Recognition Day. But as you can see in this slide, Lisa started in February of 1994, hired as a housing community development tech and environmental sampling person for the lead abatement program, and then later became a registered environmental health specialist project, and then later became the senior registered environmental health specialist for the department. As I said before, there's just so many things that she has done over the years for the department in terms of her contributions, not just to the department, but nationally. Peter Bellinger came back yesterday for our send-off event, and he shared with us a document which I just took an excerpt from it and put it in the lower right-hand corner here, where you can see the HUD guidelines. And I know Dale is here, and he'll give you a little bit of context to what that picture meant in terms of its impact on not just our department, not just on the county, but the entire nation. So I'm gonna let him talk here in a moment, since already I'm getting choked up just thinking about this. But Lisa has been a real trailblazer. She has pioneered this profession in terms of environmental investigations, where you go into the homes and find the sources of the lead poisoning. So she has helped hundreds, if not thousands, of children over the years. She has also pioneered the partnership with the district attorney's office, where we have had to sometimes go to them in order to get owners to correct their lead hazards. And in fact, in terms of, again, trailblazing, she and the DA are about to do some trailblazing again with regards to a lead investigation case, and maybe she'll comment on it because I certainly want to have her speak to you all in a moment. So over the years, Lisa has just been more than a coworker or a colleague. She's just been a great friend. And you see in the upper right-hand corner her teaching some folks about our department at the open house that we held some years ago. She's always been there, willing to help, willing to educate, as also demonstrated in one of my favorite photos of Lisa, where she's was teaching a bunch of code enforcement officers in the Alameda County Code Enforcement Network about environmental investigations, and she was showing them the X-ray fluorescent device there in her hands, often referred to as the XRF. Just reminds me of a highway patrolman's speed gun, but that's one of her main tools that she used in terms of testing surfaces to identify lead hazards. So just incredible that she has been able to touch so many lives in so many ways. So with that, I'm going to let some of our staff just make a couple of quick comments before the JPA board members will acknowledge Lisa for her work. Starting with Dale.
Good morning, everyone. Congratulations, Lisa. Lisa is going to be greatly missed by our department. I mean, one of the most important tasks of this department is responding to lead poisoned children. And she has been right there, working with every case to find out, are there lead hazards impacting the child? Where are they? How can they be fixed? Can we get the property owner to fix them up in a timely manner so that the child is safe and the blood level can go down? She has great dedication to her clients and to the mission of the department. I also want to, praise her abilities and integrity, working with environmental health, working with the DA, always making sure that, all ducks are lined up in a row, neat, because that's so important in terms of making the case when we have to go beyond just, a cooperative compliance model. Lisa started back in 1994 when we were still working out exactly how to approach this work. That was the HUD 1 study, the HUD round 1, right? We're currently working on HUD 27. So that tells you how long we've been at this. And it was a study to see, how do we approach this? The University of Cincinnati was the research partner. There was lots of, forms to fill out, but also lots of trying out exactly what works. How can we deal with it? How do we test it? How do we report on it? And Lisa's been there every step of the way as we developed our process for this. I think that, as Larry noted, we contributed to the revised 2012 HUD guidelines and provided, both pictures but also technical advice to that. And so, Lisa was part of developing those standards that then were incorporated into the 2012 HUD guidelines and set the standards for the nation. I think her contribution to protecting children locally, as well as national influence, can't be, overstated. She's just been a tremendous asset in this work, and a good person. And we're gonna miss her a lot. And maybe I've got a little allergy going on too here, just a bit.
Sony, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I didn't have anything prepared, but when it comes to Lisa, there's nothing that I really need to prepare for, because she's just been a joy to work with. I've had the pleasure of working with her for 22 years, and I would not have missed this for the world. One of the things that I wanted the board members to know is, when it comes to childhood lead poisoning, Lisa she knows everything and she's seen it all. I mean, the stories that she tells, the things that she has seen, lead poisoning with the children in Alameda County are coming from sources that you would never even guess. She's seen it all, from shooting ranges to, extreme cases of pica. She's seen some very unique sources, and I have learned so much from her. I have the pleasure right now of training a lot of new people, and I'm so excited that we have a lot of new people. But all the knowledge that I have, I've gained so much of it from her, just with my own cases for lower level lead poisoning children. But if there was a way just to take the part of the lead poisoning section of her brain, take it out and just keep it under glass for us to use, that just would be ideal. Haven't found a way to do it yet, but I just really wanted the board to know how valued she is, how knowledgeable, and how much of a contribution she's made to our department.
Thanks, Sony. Chantel and Ladisi, I think they're partnering up together, I think, here on something that they're doing. I should quickly point out here, which is that I think they're going to be delivering this, but a signed copy of this from the board. But I'll let Chantel and I'll let Ladisi then talk to you about that.
Yes, we do have a certificate of appreciation for Lisa, and actually Joy will be delivering it right now.
Oh, okay.
I want to thank the board for taking the time to signing it. Ms. Wen Hardy, Director Wenrath, Noel Gallo, Director Bowders. Definitely, just like everybody said, Lisa was, is going to be greatly missed, and I think she got her. Joy just delivered the the certificate. So thank you, Lisa, for your service, and we will miss you.
Okay, and lastly, I think Chantel and then maybe Lisa. We'll let the board talk, and they may want to then ask you to say a few words. Chantel, anything you want to say?
Yeah, I would just like to say, I didn't work with Lisa a lot on her lead projects, but I will say that she was such a team player and always so ready and willing to help me out with the cars. Anytime they needed to be washed, gas, driven. Like, people don't like to volunteer for that, but Lisa always did. And it just made my job a lot easier. So I will miss that greatly. And I'll just miss chatting with her and seeing her around the office and talking about our kids. So I wish you a lot of good luck, Lisa, and congratulations.
Okay, the board members, Director Butters.
All right, we'll allow board members to make brief comments, and I'll start with Director Gallo.
Thank you. And Lisa, thank you for the many years of service. Certainly the experience, the knowledge, the hands-on that you have. You're not done yet. We're not going to get away and just retire. And certainly, I think when it comes to serving our children here in Alameda County and the city of Oakland, there's a super need, a great need. And through your many years of trying to help our families, the knowledge that you have, the information, the contacts. So, you know, I want to congratulate you and thank you for the service. But at the same time, if there's a way that you can stay in contact with us, or, you know, volunteer or work on the side or come over to Oakland, I certainly can use you. And but I just want to say thank you. Thank you. And we're not done with you yet. We're going to continue to reach out to you and work with you. And we value the experience and we value your work. And thank you for your service. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Director Wengraf.
I just want to echo the eloquent words of my colleague, Council Member Gallo. Thank you so much for everything that you've done for Alameda County and especially for our children. It's really great work. You have your commitment of all of these years is really very, very impressive. And I hope sometime you'll be able to share all of those stories. Because it's through your experience that we can all learn so much. And right now it's all inside you, but I really hope that at some point you'll be willing to share that all with us. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Director Hardy.
I just wanted to say that I'm very happy to hear some of all the work that she has done and how she's going to be missed. And of course, being a member of People United for Better Oakland, that was the impetus behind the lead poisoning program. I am so happy and very pleased, and I hope that she will be enjoying the rest of her work in her life.
Thank you, Director Hardy. No, everybody has said a lot of things, Lisa, and I would just add something. I really agree with something Director Wengraf said, which is I believe that it's the experiences we share and the stories we leave behind that leave our legacy and our impression on the work we've done. And so you've clearly left an impression on the coworkers you have and the people you've served over almost 3 decades of work at this agency. And there's a few greater callings, in my opinion, than the call to serve the public. And there are a few things more noble than protecting the environment and protecting children. So thank you so much for all you have done and for all I'm sure you will continue to do in whatever form you determine is best for you. But the public and the people of Alameda County are better because you've been in their service. So with that, I'd like to turn it over I turn it over to you. Yeah.
Thank you. This is really nice. I love the honor of this. And I also want to really thank the board for all you've been doing, supporting us and giving us some guidance over the years, and our leadership, Larry and Dale and April especially. They're great leaders in this and wonderful people, and I love the direction we go. I've really appreciated the kind of work we do. I used to work in consulting before this, and people didn't care the same way, and people really care. I feel like when we tackle a house on a block, it's often the worst one, and we're improving the lives of all those people around. So, you know, this makes a difference in a lot of people's lives. So I really appreciate the work that we do. Larry brought up, and I did want to talk a little bit about the work with the DA's office. Ladise Sambak at the office and I have been working like crazy to squeeze this in before I leave, but we are working on a project where the owners have really not dealt with the lead hazards over years. Everything we've tried, everything, letters from the DA's office, whatnot. And so we're actually putting together the state of California versus the property owner suit. And DA's office went to LA to see, well, how did you guys do it? What's the template there? They haven't done anything like this before, and then went to San Francisco. And so it turns out we're going to be the first in the state to actually bring these fines and really tackle it and go to an owner and impose this, because they have not dealt with the lead hazards. And this is going to be a great tool that we can use for future cases, and also uses a template for all the other jurisdictions in the state to how they can go about it, kind of paving the way. At least has done fabulous work on this. So I'm excited to hand that off and, you know, have that move forward. But thank you, everybody, for all your support. It's been great working here.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And congratulations on your retirement.
Thanks.
Director Brooks.
Okay, continuing with the director's report here. Just a few things to bring up. I was notified this week that County Supervisor Nate Miley will be appointing himself to the JPA to replace County Supervisor Brown. And in fact, there was a possibility that he was going to come today, but since this was all revealed to me on Monday, and then at that time I revealed to him that the JPA was meeting this Thursday, I think it was difficult for him to be able to rearrange his schedule, but we fully anticipate he or a representative of his office will be joining us at the next JPA meeting. Any questions about that? If not, I'll move on to the next slide. So you recall not long ago, the kids of Frontline Catalyst did a presentation to you on soil sampling. Again, these kids worked with our department, learned a lot through our staff. And also you had a presentation that was put on by Emory High, where they also did their work through eBay's primarily. And as a result of those wonderful presentations that they did before the JPA and all the excellent work they did, we got word of the EPA Youth and Teachers Awards, and we immediately thought about them as you know, candidates for those awards. And so we immediately reached out to them and told them about this, encouraged them to submit applications. I just recently learned Emory High was not able to meet the deadline, but certainly we want to keep them in mind for any future awards that are issued out for students and teachers. I believe Frontline Catalyst is submitting an application for one of these awards, and so we're hopeful that they'll receive that recognition for the wonderful work that they have been doing. No questions. I'll go to the next slide. So the California Association of Code Enforcement Officers, the Regional Asthma Management and Prevention Program, have been pushing an idea that I came up with 3 years ago to restore what's called the Code Enforcement Incentive Grant. It's a part of the Health and Safety Code that was established way back in 2000 to provide grants to cities and counties for meeting some of their needs of code enforcement. And the reason I knew about it was because way back in 2001, I received one of those grants when I was the chief of code enforcement for Sacramento County. And unfortunately, the recession hit and the program was not funded in the following years. And so we found ourselves back in 2020, I think I brought it up that in a discussion, why don't we seek to restore these grants? And unfortunately, when we reached out to State Housing Community Development, because they were the ones that administered the grants, there was no one there who even remembered that it existed, which then sent us on a treasure hunt to not only convince some legislators to resurrect the grant, but also because many of the legislators that I ended up speaking to were saying, can you share with me some stories about how the grant was used, but besides how you used it way back then in Sacramento County. So we began researching that, and for the last 3 years, we have been trying to get the grants restored. And I think the stars are aligning themselves. We think we're going to have a legislative champion this year, but I won't say the name because I don't want to jinx the person, but they sound very positive that they're going to champion this. And you might wonder why this is important. I think in terms of the stars aligning themselves to where there's a need to resurrect the program. And these are just a couple of the examples in terms of the requirements being placed on code enforcement officers in many cities and counties where they don't really have the resources to follow through on, like Senate Bill 1076, where all cities and counties are now supposed to be responding to complaints about painters and contractors creating lead hazards. Assembly Bill 838 that just went into effect this past year that says all cities and counties have to have a tenant complaint response program. And again, many cities and counties are either strapped and just don't have the resources, or just in terms of other priorities that have to be met, funding police and fire, for example, they can't really provide the support that these code enforcement units are going to need in order to come into compliance with these new laws. The other thing too, that I've been explaining to the legislators is that when those grants were created, they became the seed money for moving code enforcement from what I call the dinosaur age in which I started into the era of modern technology. And that's where the treasure hunt comes into play, because we finally found some documents from 20 years ago that described some of the things that some of the cities were able to do with those grants. And you'll notice here, these are just a few of the cities and counties that received those grants, and it planted those seeds of technological advancement in code enforcement, as I say, from clipboards to computers. And there's no exaggeration there. Back in those days when I received the grants, many of our field staff were using clipboards, and many cities were able to use those grants to buy the first field technology, Panasonic Toughbooks, digital cameras, smartphones. It moved code enforcement from the prehistoric to the modern era. And I think that we're at that stage again where we need those grants in order to move code enforcement units forward. Many of the people I've talked to in different cities already have innovative ideas for how they would use those grants. And so I may be coming back to the JPA soon once we confirm we have a champion for the bill, because I believe that it's important that we get the support of our local council members and board members, because we know that the state budget is looking rather shaky, and in terms of putting aside some money to provide these types of enforcement grants, it's going to be a bit of a challenge. So this is kind of just a heads up. Does anyone have any questions about that? If not, I'll move on to the last slide.
You can go to the last item.
Okay. And this is just an announcement. Change Slab Solutions, located here in Oakland, California, that has done a great deal of productive work nationally in terms of helping cities to, say, develop ordinances for proactive rental inspection programs. They've worked on a number of publications that help to guide government agencies in regards to addressing health disparities and other environmental issues. They're putting on a webinar entitled Equity Challenges of Housing Code Enforcement. And I am honored that they have asked me to be part of the panel that will be speaking on that on January 31st. I was told yesterday that they have over 600 people nationally that have registered for that webinar. I'm going to have to hurry up and let my dentist know that I can't have that gum surgery because I'm going to have to try to be able to talk on January 31st. But I will report back on how that webinar went. But again, just a quick announcement that I'll be doing that. And hopefully we'll get some information from the other speakers that we can bring back to help us in our work here. And that is the director's report.
Are there any questions or comments from directors regarding the director's report? Now is the time for public comment. A member of the public who wishes to comment on the director's report has 2 minutes to do so. Adisa, did we receive any written comments for the director's report?
No comments.
Okay, and seeing no further discussion, thank you so much for the director's report and all those updates. Congratulations again to you, Lisa, on your retirement and your service. And I see that we have County Counsel Andrew Massey here. So members, I'd like to go back to agenda item 4 out of respect for council's time and take up this item, which is with respect to remote meetings, Brown Act compliance for remote meetings after February 28th of this year. And there was a memo provided to everybody about the differences between AB 361 and AB 2449. It's rather comprehensive, and hope you've had a chance to read that. That was provided to you so you could just ask questions and we didn't have to subject Mr. Massey to a long conversation. We will be reconvening in person beginning at our March meeting. The location that was decided upon is Emeryville City Hall. I've worked with staff to have that ready to go, and Ladise or someone else from staff will just need to do a visit to Emeryville City Hall to make sure the technology between your computer and everything we use links up with the remote meeting hybrid style we're preparing for. But the new law is somewhat administratively cumbersome to track. You get a couple just cause exceptions for missing meetings or not being in person. There still is a requirement of a quorum to be present. And I wanted Mr. Massey, given the unique quorum situation with this board, could you explain for the board at least what is required in person in order for us to meet? Is it essentially all of us have to be in person given the weighted voting system for quorum?
So I would take a step back and say AB 361 is how all of you have been meeting remotely and excluding the public from attending the meeting in person. That law, that ability will go away when the emergency declaration is rescinded at the end of February. At that point, to the extent you're interested in continuing with any form of remote appearances, it's the existing teleconference rules in the Brown Act that really facilitate that. The Brown Act has always permitted teleconference meetings, but what distinguishes it from what you're doing currently is that anyone appearing by teleconference must appear from a location that is open and accessible to the public, where the meeting agenda is posted. And historically, that wasn't particularly attractive because we didn't have the technology we have today. But today, with the advent of Zoom and similar technologies, it may be attractive for those who are interested, and if it's the pleasure of your board to allow for remote appearances, for example, for members who come from cities to appear from, say, their city hall office or a city council chambers, where the public could be permitted to attend in person. But it would save having to drive to a centralized meeting spot. So that is the primary vehicle for moving forward with remote meetings, if that's the pleasure of your board. The new law, AB 2449, has pretty limited impact. The intent of that law is to permit a member of a legislative body who intends to attend an in-person meeting to appear remotely due to some unforeseen circumstance. Had some medical issue that would prevent attending the meeting in person, you could instead call in. And as you noted, Mr. Botters, there are a lot of incredibly cumbersome administrative requirements that come along with that, in terms of when notice is provided and the tracking of the number of times that authority is used, because it's basically limited for a board such as yours that meets monthly to 2 times a year. And so it would be up to your administrative staff to keep track of that for you. And then there is disclosure that has to be made of the reason for not attending in person. So that is more an exception when somebody, as I say, intends to attend a meeting in person and has some misfortune or something comes up and they want to call in. But it's not a method of appearing remotely on a regular basis. The way to appear remotely on a regular basis is the traditional teleconference rules, the Brown Act, and that merely requires allowing the public to appear in person wherever board members are calling in from.
And there are some other requirements in the existing Brown Act about what constitutes a suitable location. There's accessibility rules for ADA and other types of accommodations that have to be standard. Is that correct?
Yes. So ADA accessibility is necessary for people who are attending in person. If they need assistive devices in order to participate, that would need to be arranged, which is the case for your meetings now. But if you're appearing from multiple locations, that becomes more of an administrative issue. And then, as I was saying earlier, the agenda must be posted at each location from which a board member is calling in. I think that tends toward the use of public facilities as the call-in locations. They tend to be accessible. You may have staff that can help facilitate any member of the public who shows up at your remote location. And it's the normal practice to post agendas at your public offices. In theory, you could do this from your home, but it's unlikely that your home is going to meet all of those requirements.
Understood. Other directors, do you have questions for Mr. Massey about the implications of the changes that will be coming back? Director Wengraf?
Yeah, in terms of ADA accessibility, if there's one location that is accessible, does that fulfill the requirement, or do all locations have to be accessible?
I think that's sort of an open question. I think the more conservative approach would be to call in from accessible locations, because people can just show up. And if they show up, then they need to be able to participate in the meeting. They need to be able to provide public comment from the remote location. But to my knowledge, it's not something that's ever been tested. So I wouldn't recommend becoming the test case.
I'll just add on to that. We had that exact question at the Air District because we are looking at creating 2 hubs for the 9-county region so that people don't have to come all the way in. And the lawyers in that situation said the same thing, that there's not a case law on that, but they said the reading of the statute in their opinion was if you're going to notice a location, so if we were to notice Berkeley City Hall, for example, Berkeley City Hall has to accommodate, if it's in the notice, it's like any other location, you have to accommodate a person because they reasonably see it in the notice and they expect that they can go there regardless of their ability.
Okay, and a follow-up question is, what about the hybrid format? Is that, can you explain that? We have a very small board, so a quorum and the way it's structured, Oakland, I think we have to have Oakland at the table in order to meet the quorum requirements. If we were to do a hybrid format, how would that work?
Yes, that's correct. Oakland's representative needs to be present in order to have a quorum. If you were doing the remote meeting under the traditional Brown Act rules, it requires a certain number of the board members to call in from locations within the geographic boundaries of your of the JPA. But the city, for example, if the representative from the city of Oakland is calling in from Oakland City Hall, that would be within the boundaries of the JPA, and so that would be acceptable in terms of establishing a quorum.
Just to clarify on that point so that everyone, because I understand the law on this, Andrew, I just want to make sure everyone else does. As long as we've noticed under the traditional Brown Act a location, it constitutes a location that counts towards quorum, right? So if the city representative from Oakland was to put Oakland City Hall in the example you used down, and he only attends at Oakland City Hall, and doesn't come to Emeryville City Hall where the location for the main meeting is, he counts towards quorum because he's in a location that's been noticed. It's different if he has to use the exception, as you noted, under 2449, and he needs to call in because of a medical emergency or something else. We can't do or authorize the use of that rule if a quorum of people isn't at a location that's noticed, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
And
So
one of the many
in theory,
cumbersome things-
all of us could have a city hall. We could all go to our city halls as long as your city hall, you notice it 24 hours in advance on the building or whatever the minimum requirement is, and you make the building open and accessible during this meeting. We could all do that in theory. We have to put all of our addresses for city halls or whatever the location is that's accessible. We have to put them all on the notice, but we could easily do that if before March, if each person wants to report, if Director Gaio says, I want to use the office located at whatever in the Fruitvale and it's publicly accessible, we can allow that to happen and just have that be where he comes in from telephonically.
Yeah, the additional piece of that is that the public, if they show up at the teleconference locations in person, need to be able to provide public comment. And so you need to think through the logistics of that. Other bodies have talked about, well, maybe they would have 2 laptops, one for the board member and one for the public wanting to provide public comment. And, you may need staff to facilitate the use of that technology.
That is exactly what's happening with the Air District. So if anyone wants to do it, I'm chair of the Air District right now, and we are overseeing that transition, and we have exactly that protocol. There has to be a staff person for the building, a staff person from the agency. There have to be 2 laptops, one for the board members who will sit at one table at that location and one for the public. We're going to literally have North Bay public comment time, South Bay public comment time, San Francisco Central Bay public comment, and there will be a North Bay board member, South Bay board member, and Central Bay board member meeting space. Director Gaio.
To the attorney, if I'm traveling on city business, specifically, I represent Oakland with the National City Council League, and as well as the League of California Cities. So if I'm traveling to DC, I'm able to join the city council meeting and participate and take a vote. But I just want to be clear. So if I'm traveling on city business, and the JPA is meeting, what is there? Can I just call in, get on the Zoom and join in, or am I hearing something different that's no longer acceptable?
You can do that. You could call in from anywhere as long as it's open to the public.
Okay.
The issue is you have to have a certain number of your board members calling in from locations within the geographic boundaries. So if you were the only one who was outside, out of state,
Yeah.
that would be fine, but it can't be that every board member is calling in from out of state.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And not to complicate this, but I just want to be really clear with that advice, Andrew. So, because we were always told that Oakland has like 65% of the weighted vote. So are you saying that are you making it clear that he has to actually publish the notice at the place he is out of the jurisdiction? So if he's at a hotel in DC, does he have to publish it on the front door of the hotel for it to qualify? Or are you saying, no, he can just phone in remotely under 2449? Which guidance are you giving him? Is he using the Brown Act and he has to put it on the hotel door? Or are you saying he's under 2449, he can just call in, but in which case you'd only get to do that twice during the year? And then my secondary question to that would be, is he even allowed to do that because he's not in the jurisdiction and he constitutes a quorum of the weighted vote?
So I was thinking of it under the traditional Brown Act rules, because I think that was the factual situation he was giving, analogizing to how he has used this authority historically. And the historic use, it hasn't changed. You can still call in from DC. The use of 2449 is going to be more limited, and especially because of the overlapping, the necessity of Oakland being present to have a quorum. So I don't think you could use 2449 from DC, because you wouldn't have a quorum in person,
right,
in order to do that.
Okay, so then using the traditional Brown Act, which is what you're analyzing, he still has to put a notice on the hotel door, though, doesn't he?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. That's why I just want to be really clear for him what he's got to do. So he's got to actually be there 24 hours in advance of our meeting. He has to post it on the front door of the hotel, and it has to be published in our notice a week before.
Well, if it's your regular meeting, it would be 72 hours in advance, which may be challenging for a hotel stay.
Yeah, I just want to be really clear. He can't just phone in. So if you're traveling, Noel, like, you should just tell us and we should reschedule. That's what we should do.
All right, so if I'm in the office of Congresswoman Barbara Lee, I got to post it in front of her door. She's gonna throw me out of her.
Yeah, we'll just, if you know that you're traveling, just give us notice and we will reschedule for you if you have a trip like
Got
that.
it. All right.
Don't stress that. Don't stress that.
Okay, thanks. All right.
Director Wengraf, did you have a comment?
You raised the question I was going to raise, which was the location needs to be printed on the agenda.
Yeah.
So the DC needs to have that information. I don't know when she actually does it, but probably a week ahead of time or whatever.
Yeah, we do it
very
the
complicated.
Friday before, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so we'll figure this out together. But here's the thing: if we need to consolidate or reschedule a meeting once or twice during the year, my only ask is just provide as much advance notice that you're going to travel as possible, and we can accommodate that. Like, we can, just so that nobody comes all the way to another location to find out someone wasn't going to make it. That's the only ask. Director Wingraf.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I do have another question.
Sure.
So if I decide that for some health reason, I cannot attend in person, but I would like to attend from home, I tell the DC, she prints my home address on the agenda. I post the agenda by my front door 24 hours in advance. When somebody rings my doorbell and shows up, can I say to them, you need to wear a mask?
So the scenario you're describing, it would probably make more sense to make use of the new law, AB 2449, because that one does not require you to open your home to the public or provide the address location. It as I was describing earlier, it's a law that it deals with your exact situation. You intended to go to the meeting in person, but you got sick. So you don't want to get your fellow board members sick, but you nonetheless are physically able to participate in the meeting remotely. AB 2449 lets you do that without having to disclose your home address or have the public come into your living room.
Andrew, I want to make sure you're reading what she's asking, though. She used a health example, but
yeah.
Susan, are you only proposing to do that 2 times a year?
Yeah, that's the thing. AB 249, it has limits on the number of times you can use it. It's twice a year.
Right. So
Yeah.
just to be clear, so if she just to make sure we're distinguishing between what people might want to do permanently, right? So
Right.
if your vice wouldn't be the same, Andrew, if she was
Right.
saying, I want to do this every meeting.
And is that the calendar year or is it the budget year?
I believe it's 12 months, but
In
I,
a 12-month rolling period.
yeah,
So whenever you use it the first time, you've got 12 months to use it a second time, basically.
correct.
Okay. Okay, so then the DC does not have to know that in advance because it's not posted on the agenda?
Correct. It's a different process where, and that's described in some detail in the memo about what information you need to transmit. There, you do have to identify the reason why you are calling in to the meeting as opposed to coming in person as you had originally intended. And because of the nature of it, you can do this up to the start of the meeting. It's not like the traditional teleconference rules, which you can use at every single meeting. And that's where you have to call in from the publicly accessible location. You have to post the agenda. It has to disclose, the agenda has to disclose where you are. The new law, AB 2449, that one's for, emergencies. And so you could tell the DC up to the start of the meeting, I got sick this morning, or I fell and hurt myself. I can't walk, something to that of that nature. It includes childcare emergencies as a basis. So but you do have to disclose that information as opposed to your address location.
Okay, and if I were just to do it under the traditional Brown Act rules, I go back to my first question. If somebody rings my doorbell, can I require them to wear a mask or show me proof of vaccination or anything like that?
I don't see how you would do that because your board would need to adopt some rules about people coming into spaces for meetings. And that's why I think it's not really a good idea to setting aside the safety concerns of letting strangers into your home. You're not going to be able to impose a lot of rules on them the same way maybe if they were somebody you were inviting over for a dinner party at your house, you might be able to negotiate that sort of thing. You're not going to be able to impose a lot of rules because the public needs to be able to attend in person and needs to be able to provide their public comment. And if you start imposing a lot of barriers to that may create a legal impediment to their participation in the meeting. So I think that all points towards the use of public facilities.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, I would like to strongly recommend that if somebody is sick and needs to call in because they're not well, that using your home and not disclosing your address is both safe for you and you can imply, and safe for all of us. If you're wishing to attend remotely, we need to have a policy that at least a week in advance, you provide the address of your location to Ledise because the notice for this meeting goes out the Friday before. So we would need to give you that address so that it's publicly noticed. And then you have an obligation, if you're proposing that place, you have to post that 72 hours in advance of the meeting at that location. So Monday morning, you have to tape it to the front door. It has to be there all week. Noel.
Yes, so we're going to continue to meet it in Emerville at 9 a.m.
Yes.
At 9 a.m. at
9:30 is it Ledise? 9:30 we said?
9:30.
9:30.
At 9:30 in Emerville will provide us coffee, breakfast, and lunch. I'll definitely show up on time.
I can look into that. I mean, here's the thing: if you have a location that's a public building in East Oakland, I think you guys are not too far off the tube from Alameda. It may be of interest to you and Director Vela to have a location over there if you want to do that and have participation. The other thing is, I don't know what Ledice's plan is, but I imagine we could just use the Healthy Homes office as a location potentially too. So
Emeryville City Hall is wonderful.
it is, I will tell you, it is, there's no noise. The parking is easy for those who drive. It's transit accessible. It's easy in, easy out, and everyone at City Hall is pleasant. Director Brooks. You're on mute, Director Brooks.
Thank you. Director Gaio, I know you have in the past a meeting that takes place right after this one. And I'm wondering if that has now changed, if you're going to be coming to Emeryville. Certainly you won't be able to make what was, I think, a 10 o'clock meeting.
Yeah, the days have changed now, so I'll be okay with the time and the hour that we're scheduled to meet. Thank you.
Okay, and then I just have one other question for Mr. Massey, which is to the comment and the questions about Director Wengraf had about using 2449. If someone says, I have this situation, is there not a provision that requires the board to approve a just cause exemption?
There is, and if anybody wants to make use of that, the memo that was put together by our associate Karina Seeley Vandenbard goes through all of those logistics, and there are a lot of administrative requirements. So I think that as soon as you know that you're going to need to make use of that, letting Ladise know so we can work through all the information that we need. But there is an approval that of the just cause, but just cause is not the only basis for making use of AB 2449. And we could go through all those details. The memo does a really nice job of that. She did a really nice job, and it's got a great chart in there explaining all the different requirements. But I think as a practical matter, as soon as you think that you may need to make use of this, contacting Ladise, and I can work with her, and Director Brooks can work with her in working through all the details so we can facilitate that. I think that's probably makes the most sense.
Okay, are there any additional questions? Starting in March, Emeryville City Hall will be open to you. I will do my best to ensure that we have coffee. As a non-coffee person, I always provide orange juice, so who knows? But I'll see if I can maybe the agency has a small budget to allow us to facilitate coffee at every meeting. I don't know what you guys need, but talk to me about it. And if there's a need for you'll what?
I'll bake some cookies for you.
Deal. Cookies and ice cream is like the fastest way to my heart. So anyways, we will have one more of these remote, and then we will be in person. And if anybody needs to use a remote location, if you think you're going to regularly do that, give that information to Ladise so we can make sure that that's all set up in advance of the March meeting. We have like 2 months to get that together. And if not, and we have somebody who needs to travel periodically, let us know, especially Oakland, because we can't have a meeting without Oakland. So let us know so that we can either find an alternative date to have a special meeting date, or see if there's anything we can just consolidate to the next month's meeting. By Sony. So with that, is there any public comment on item 4? And did we receive any written comments for item 4, Ladise?
No public comment or no written comment.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Mr. Massey, thank you so much for being here and answering our questions today, and for the work you did to put together that memo. Very helpful. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, members, I will bring us back now to item 6, which is the monthly reports.
December was a slow month for us, as you can see, but just wanted to highlight that we started posting videos on TikTok, and we actually have some viewers. We're continuing to do Twitter, and we were able to get approximately 300 more people actually to sign up for our page. That's all the comments I have.
Great. Are there any questions on the monthly report? Seeing none, is there any public comment on the monthly report?
No public comments.
Thank you so much. That will conclude item 6. Item 7 is future agenda items. Are there any future agenda items people wish to request? Seeing none, item 8 is comments by Board of Directors. Are there any members of the board who wish to comment? Seeing none, item 9 is adjournment. Madam Clerk, the time is 10:02 a.m. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for being here. Lisa, enjoy the retirement, but don't go too far, okay? All right.